Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go. Hello and welcome to today's DNS session. We are going to have a discussion on today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition dated 11 July 2021. We shall pick up articles important for civil service examination and discuss them as per the demand of the exam. This news article is from page number 1. Sikkim blossoms. The state is home to 27% of India's. This news article is from page number 1. Sikkim blossoms. That Sikkim is the smallest state and it has less than 1% of India's land mass. So it's interesting that it holds around 30%. Some data suggests 30% of India's flowering plants. Let us look at the geographical feature of Sikkim in order to understand and appreciate as to why this is the case. First of all, if you look at the physical map of Sikkim, you will find out that it is bordered by the autonomous region of China in the northern and northeastern region. In the southeastern region, it is bordered by Bhutan. In the southern region, it is bordered by West Bengal. And on the west, it is bordered by Nepal. Sikkim has two important passes, Nathula Pass, and just beside Nathula Pass on right hand side, we have Jalepla Pass. These two passes are used to access the Tibetan region. Between Sikkim and Bhutan, there is Chumbi Valley. On the right hand side of Chumbi Valley, there is a plateau called as Doklam Plateau. Doklam Plateau as such is within Bhutan, but it is claimed by China. China in this region does not recognize this border of Bhutan. It recognizes the straight line border from here to here, so that the Doklam Plateau comes within the autonomous region of China. Further, if you look into the physical map or the satellite image, you will figure out that Sikkim is surrounded by steep, high-rising mountains on three sides. On the western side, at the border of Nepal, there's a range called as Singalila Range. On the northern side, of course, you have Himalayas. And on the eastern side, there's a range called as Dongkya Range. Sikkim is drained by river Tista. Tista originates near the Tibetan region. River Rangit is an important tributary of river Tista that originates from within Sikkim. Tista drains and crosses Sikkim, enters into West Bengal, and at the border of Sikkim and West Bengal, it cuts through the gorge of Darjeeling and then enter into the Indo-Gangetic Plain. River Tista draining Sikkim and West Bengal enter into Bangladesh, and it is within Bangladesh that it joins with river Brahmaputra. Brahmaputra in Bangladesh is called as river Jamuna. River Jamuna meets river Padma, forms river Meghna, and finally it drains into Bay of Bengal. Now let's come back to the original question. Why so many flowers in Sikkim? Why so much of vegetation variation? As you can see from the satellite view, Sikkim has very little plain. The lowland in Sikkim is a very small percentage. And the variation in relief is extreme. So much of variation in relief is not seen in any other state. In a small span of 80 kilometers, the elevation increases from around 200 meter to around 8,600 meter at Kanchenjunga. Variation is not only steep, the variation is there all over the state. And because of this, different altitudinal ecosystems exist in the state. This gives opportunities to various herbs and trees to grow within the state. The climatic condition also varies immensely within the state. It goes right from subtropical, almost tropical, or rather we should call it properly subtropical, to temperate and to subalpine vegetation. Towards the north, the vegetation becomes alpine, the elevation becomes very high, and the northern part of the state is part of Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve landscape. Around 40% of Sikkim is forested. In the plain where river Rangit and other tributaries of river Tista flow, there is subtropical forest. One of the most important tree in the subtropical forest is sal. It has hardwood. Pandanus, palm, bamboo, ferns, these are the trees to be found out in subtropical forest. At the elevation greater than 1500 meter but less than 4000 meter, there thrives temperate forest. Oak, laurel, maple, chestnut, Magnolia, alder, birch, rhododendron. This is the state tree of Sikkim. These are the common trees in the temperate forest. And as you go up more than 400 meters, you'll reach to the alpine tundra. Because of variation in elevation, there is climatic variation, and that creates possibility of different altitudinal ecosystems. This different altitudinal ecosystem is distributed throughout the state, as you can see here in the satellite map. And hence, this large percentage of Indian flowering plant is to be found in the state of Sikkim. Now let's go through this question that was asked in the prelims exam of 2015. Which one of the following national parks has a climate that varies from tropical to subtropical, temperate, and arctic? The answer to this question is Namdapha, option D. This is in Arunachal Pradesh. You see, Sikkim does not have proper tropical climate. We have talked about it, it has subtropical climate. So Kanchenjunga is not an option, Nanda Devi is not an option either, and not at all Nura Valley National Park. You are very well aware that in the northeastern region, there is tropical climate. As you go towards north, the slope is steep, elevation is very high, and you reach till Arctic climate. But so much of variation is not there in Sikkim. But the variation is widespread in Sikkim. Hand in hand, let's do discussion of 2016 as well. With reference to river Teesta, consider the following statements. The source of river Teesta is the same as that of Brahmaputra, but it flows through Sikkim. In this map, we have seen already that the source of river Teesta is not same as that of Brahmaputra. The sources are far away from each other. River Rangit originates in Sikkim and it is a tributary of river Teesta. This is a correct statement. River Teesta flows into Bay of Bengal on the border of India and Bangladesh. We have seen previously that river Teesta merges into Brahmaputra. It flows as Jamuna, meets river Padma, flows as Meghna, and that goes into Bay of Bengal. So the statement again is incorrect. Answer would be option B. There is an article on page number 1. As Taliban advance, India pulls out Kandahar consulate staff. On page number 8 or 9 or so, there is another article, China evacuates citizens from Afghanistan. There is a regional unease about Taliban acquiring more and more districts in Afghanistan. The country seems to be at the brim of civil war. To protect the consulate staff, India has sent Indian Air Force flight to bring back the staffer at the consulate and also the ITBP officials. Kandahar is the same place where the infamous hijacking of Indian Airlines happened in 1999. India has already shut down the consulate at Jalalabad and Herat in April. Presently, the embassy at Kabul is running, and India is also operating from the consulate at Mazar-e Sharif. These places are extremely important for you to know for the prelims exam. There's another place called as Bamiyan, also spelled as Bamyan. This has ancient archaeological sites famous for the Buddha statue, Bamiyan Buddha. That was destroyed, but recently it was regenerated using 3D effect. For natural beauty, Bande Amir is famous. There is also a national park of Bande Amir. There are some other very famous ancient sites and cities in Afghanistan. For example, Maimana, Bagram, and Ghazni. Make sure that you know these places and it doesn't slip out of your mind as long as you are giving prelims. There is an article on the Science and Tech page of today's newspaper. Cuba develops world's first conjugate vaccine for COVID-19. Cuba's vaccine candidate that has cleared the third stage of trial, Soberana, that is the world's first vaccine candidate for COVID-19, that is conjugate vaccine. Cuba is presently at the stage of finalization of two vaccines, Soberana, that is conjugate vaccine, and there is another vaccine, Abdallah. The efficacy of both is more than 90%, which is very impressive, not reached by even Pfizer or Moderna. Let us first go through the common types of vaccines before discussing specifically as to why Cuba has taken the route of developing conjugate vaccine for COVID-19. The purpose of vaccine is to elicit an immune response before the pathogen actually attacks body. So you have to send something into the body that resembles the pathogen so that the immune system learns to identify it, gets trained, develops antibodies even before the body actually gets infected, so that when the infection happens, it does not take time for preparation. Immune system already has learned to identify it and antibodies already have been produced. The memory T cells will start flooding the blood with antibodies corresponding to that particular pathogen or antigen. So this thing can be done in various ways. One of the ways to do is to put live attenuated vaccine. Live means that the virus would be alive, not dead. But its effect will be attenuated so that it will not cause disease or any harm to the body. There are various ways in which the effect of the virus can be attenuated. Sometimes the virus is put into the eggshell. The next generation is put into another eggshell. The next generation into another egg cell. and this process is repeated multiple times. What happens is the virus gets adapted to the environment of the egg, so it does not produce toxin that can harm the human body. Live attenuated vaccine has the most robust, powerful impact among all vaccines. This is also the most common kind of vaccine, and WHO has recommended this kind of vaccine for many diseases like measles, rubella, chickenpox, rotavirus, and oral polio vaccine. But the thing is that it is live, so sometimes considered dangerous. Also, the chances that the virus will reverse its nature and start harming the body is minuscule. Still, dealing with the live virus in the lab is dangerous and it is not considered very safe. So, for that reason, there is another kind of vaccine called as inactivated vaccine. Inactivated means the virus is dead, not alive. It has been killed using chemicals, heat, or radiation, or whichever means, but the virus is dead. But it is a whole virus vaccine, meaning you are not taking parts of the body of virus or bacteria. There is entire body of bacteria or virus, but it is in dead form. Depending upon the nature of the virus, the threat for the safety purpose, if it can be handled live or not, we decide upon live attenuated or inactivated vaccine. WHO has recommended inactivated vaccine for hepatitis A, influenza, rabies, pertussis, and inactivated polio virus. It is in the form of injection. Oral polio vaccine, which still continues in many developing countries, is live attenuated vaccine. But the injectable vaccine for polio, the inactivated polio vaccine, has inactivated virus. Now, sometimes we do not use the entire body of the pathogen, the bacteria or the virus, to be put inside the body through vaccine. Rather, we use some part of the body of pathogen. That kind of vaccine is called as subunit vaccine. Why do we use it? We use it, of course, for a more targeted immune response with high precision, so that the immune response does not develop for a similar other pathogen. But the precision comes at a cost. You understand that there could be mutation in the pathogen, and the subunit that you have chosen to create a vaccine, if that is changed, then the mutated virus will not be impacted effectively by the vaccine that you have made. And there could be a problem of memory in the immune cell. If that subunit has changed, then by memory the immune cell will not be able to recognize the mutated virus. But nevertheless, we use subunit vaccines for many diseases. WHO has recommended a lot of disease for subunit vaccine. We'll come to it and we'll also see the classification of subunit vaccine. But let's first talk about these two kind of vaccines. Toxoid vaccines. Sometimes the virus and the bacteria, they produce some harmful chemicals in the body called as toxin. And these toxins can be used as antigen. Toxoid vaccines actually neutralize the toxin produced by the pathogens rather than the pathogens itself. Diphtheria and tetanus, these two are the diseases that have been recommended by WHO for toxoid vaccines. There could be biosynthetic vaccines. In these vaccines, we do not take subunits from the body of the virus or the toxins produced by the virus or the bacteria, but we use man-made substances that are very similar to the virus or bacteria that causes disease. In this way, you do not have to deal with the virus or the bacteria at all. For HIV, it has been recommended that such vaccines be used. The latest technology, the breakthrough in the development of vaccine, is mRNA vaccine. An mRNA vaccine is a kind of biosynthetic vaccine where a subunit of the RNA of virus is produced. That subunit is put into the vaccine, injected into the body. The ribosome of the cell reads that subunit of RNA and produces a part of the body of the virus. For example, for coronavirus, the mRNA vaccine uses that part of RNA of the virus, codes that part of the RNA of the virus that produces the spike protein. And that subunit, a small part of the RNA, laboratory synthesized, is put into the body through the vaccine. The ribosome reads that part and produces the spike protein. This spike protein becomes the antigen. In our discussion, we are more interested in the subunit vaccine because the conjugate vaccine with which the discussion started is a kind of subunit vaccine. There are three kinds of subunit vaccines. One is purely protein-based subunit vaccine. As the name suggests, subunit vaccine will have one part of the body of the pathogen, the bacteria or the virus. The part that we take are generally the proteins, and they are refined and refined and refined. And that refined protein is put into the vaccine. This kind of subunit vaccine is called as protein-based subunit vaccine. These proteins act as antigen and they create very precise immune response. But then for precision, you have to pay the cost. The problem would be, as we have already discussed, the immune response will not be very robust. The immune system's memory may also not be very well built. Additionally, with protein-based subunit vaccine, there's a problem that these are proteins. The antigen that you are using, they are proteins. And these proteins can actually denature the antibody. And then one antibody will start getting attached with another antibody. So antibodies, rather than attacking the antigen, they'll start colluding with each other. Well, that may not always happen, but these are high risks of protein-based subunit vaccine. Another category of subunit vaccine is called as polysaccharide vaccine. Well, you understand the outer layer of the bacteria or the virus could be made up of polysaccharide. These polysaccharide capsules act as the protecting layer for the pathogen. Most importantly, they help evade the host's immune response. Because these polysaccharide material making the outer capsule seems to be very familiar material to the immune system of the host. But nevertheless, when we use the outer polysaccharide as antigen, that is called as polysaccharide vaccine. WHO has recommended so far polysaccharide vaccine for meningococcal disease. The third category of subunit vaccine is conjugate vaccine. In conjugate vaccine, as the name suggests, there are two things in conjugation. You take out the protein as you take out in protein-based subunit vaccine, but this is conjugated with another material, maybe a toxin. This another material with which it is conjugated is generally called as carrier protein. The carrier protein and the protein that has been taken out from the body of the pathogen together forms the antigen. Soberna 2, which is the vaccine candidate for COVID-19 from Cuba, has used the tetanus toxin as the conjugate protein. The rationale behind this conjugation is, you understand that for effective immune response, you need not only antibodies, but you need other cells from the WBC category. For example, if help comes from killer T cells, then the immune response will be more robust. So protein from the body of the pathogen will create some antigen, but this conjugated carrier protein, this will call the killer T cells. Because this tetanus toxin is known to the body. Because tetanus is part of childhood vaccination. So this will work only if you already have got tetanus vaccination. And tetanus vaccination is very common. You must have got it. So the immune system will definitely recognize this and killer T cells will be activated. When killer T cells are activated, then chances are that the pathogens which are new will also be killed. So conjugate vaccine creates a better immune response. Cuba has the technical know-how of producing conjugate vaccine because Cuba has previously produced many other conjugate vaccines as well. So they are trying their hands on conjugate vaccine for COVID-19 with the name of Soberana 2. There's a news article on page number 8, keen to empower cooperatives, says the Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah. You would be very well aware that the Government of India recently has created a new ministry, the Ministry of Cooperation. There's a news article. Yesterday, Pallavi ma'am discussed the probable objective of creating the new ministry. Today, we'll have a general discussion on cooperatives themselves. Cooperatives, first of all, are voluntary associations. People come together on voluntary basis to promote their economic interest. So this voluntary association is based on mutual cooperation. The idea is the members will get benefited by mutual cooperation. The welfare of one is in the welfare of all. The members pool their resources, utilize them in the best possible manner, and derive some common benefit out of it. So the capital contribution comes from the members. They together can take some credit, that is okay, but initially they come together to pool their resource and they themselves create the credit. It has open membership, the management is done in the democratic manner, but since the interests of people are involved and this is a kind of open membership body, so there would be an oversight and regulation by the state. The fundamental working principle and the idea of business through cooperative is same for all kind of cooperatives. But different cooperatives differ in the kind of activities that they take. Cooperatives can be formed as marketing society. These societies are formed by small producers and manufacturers who find it difficult to sell their products individually. So the society collects the products from individual members and takes the responsibility of selling these products in the market. For example, the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation that does the selling and marketing for Amul. Cooperative societies in general can be formed for producers. These societies are formed to protect the interest of small producers by making available the items of their need for production, for example, raw materials, tools and equipments, machinery, etc. Handloom societies like APECCO, Haryana Handloom. There is a producer cooperative society by the name of Bayanika. Cooperative societies can also be formed for consumers. These societies are formed to protect the interest of general consumers by making consumer goods available at reasonable price. The society for consumers buy the goods directly from the producer or the manufacturers, and thereby they eliminate the middlemen in the process of distribution. You might have heard of a cooperative called as Apna Bazar. There are other consumers cooperative societies like Kendriya Bhandar, Sahakari Bhandar. There can also be housing cooperative society. These societies are formed to provide residential houses to members. The society as a whole purchase land, develop it and construct houses or flats and allocate the same to members. Some societies also provide loans at low interest rate to members to construct their own houses. There are many metropolitan housing cooperative societies in many metropolitan cities. In cooperative credit society, financial support is given to the members. The society accepts deposit from members and grants them as loans at reasonable interest rate in times of need. Primary agriculture credit societies and urban cooperative banks. They are actually cooperatives. Cooperative farming societies are formed generally by small farmers to work jointly and thereby enjoy the benefits of large scale farming. You must have heard of Pani Panchayats. You might also have heard of lift irrigation cooperative societies. Cooperatives brings lots of benefit to the members and to society in general. Cooperative societies can create employment opportunities in rural area for rural people. For example, Amul cooperative movement has created an alternate employment opportunity. It has set up a model of rural employment generation, rural prosperity, and balanced regional growth. Cooperatives also help in financial inclusion. Many rural farmers can access the financial intermediary services otherwise provided by financial institutions like loans and deposits through rural credit cooperative societies. According to NABARD annual report, the state cooperative banks disbursed a total of rupees 1,48,625 crore in loan in the financial year 1920. Cooperative societies also help the cause of women empowerment or gender justice. Cooperative societies have played a major role in not only providing employment opportunities but also improving the socio-economic status of women in society. For example, the very famous Shri Mahila Grih Udyog, the one that produces very famous Lijjat Papad. This cooperative society is a classic example for women empowerment. Cooperative societies, as we understand, works on the principle of open membership and democratic control. So they penetrate the democratic values, people's participation, direct accountability to the grassroots level. Cooperative societies also improve the competitiveness of goods and services provided. As we have discussed previously, in the consumers' cooperative societies and also in the producers' cooperative societies, the members control the supply chain. The middlemen are eliminated. This obviously reduces the final price of the output. The benefit of cooperative societies is huge, but still, very few cooperative society movements have been successful. Rest of them have crippled down. The reason is cooperatives are reeling with many challenges. First and foremost, there is limitation of capital. The members of the cooperative societies are from low income group. They cannot take credit at high interest rate because they work mostly on non-profit motive. Assistance from government in terms of credit dispersal is at par with other industries and other sectors. There is no much special assistance given to the cooperative sector. Then there is issue with the managerial skill of the office bearers of these cooperatives. Since the motive is non-profit, there is not much incentive for people with expertise to hold the office of the cooperatives. As we have discussed before, cooperatives are under the regulation of government, specifically state government, so far. So there are political interferences and corruption in the management of cooperatives. The crisis in Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank is one of the recent examples in this regard. To form cooperative societies in India is a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution. Cooperative society has been mentioned in the 7th schedule in the second list. Cooperative societies is a state subject. Various state governments have their own Cooperative Societies Act, and cooperative societies are registered as societies under those acts. The state governments have an office of Registrar of Societies. This office regulates the state cooperative societies, but there are certain societies that are operative in multiple states. The multi-state cooperative societies are hence governed by the Central Registrar of Societies. But if the cooperative society is involved in the banking function and is acting as a cooperative bank, then that is regulated by RBI under the provision of Banking Regulation Act 1949. The underperformance, corruption, inefficiency of cooperative societies have been the feature as long as the concept has been developed and materialized in India. Government of India constituted Vaidyanath Committee to suggest reform in cooperative societies, and the committee suggested recapitalization of cooperatives. The committee suggested strong institutional reforms with regard to capacity building, with regard to management. It also suggested better managerial practices, common accounting system throughout the cooperatives, computerization of cooperatives. Working on the idea of recapitalization or better credit facility availability to the cooperatives, Government of India has formed two funds under NABARD. They are called as Short-Term Cooperative Rural Credit Fund and Long-Term Rural Credit Fund. Government of India has very actively promoted and recently taken a lot of measures to promote farmer-producer organization. In the budget of 2019-20, Government of India has set up the target of setting 10,000 farmer-producer organizations in next 5 years. Government also brought the Banking Regulation Amendment Act 2020 to bring urban cooperatives directly under the control of RBI. And now the Government of India has taken the bold step of setting Ministry of Cooperation to help improve the condition of cooperatives in India. We have completed the discussion that we had to do today. Now I'm leaving you with short speed test of 12 questions. You should not take more than 3 minutes to solve it. So clock yourself, take the test, and do mention your score in the comment section. The answer to this test you can find in the description section. Now you see on the screen what you always see at the end. So please do what you always do at the end. Goodbye.